Welcome to the show, folks. A Perch of Birds podcast, episode number 42 is where you have found yourself this great day or night, wherever it is that this audio is tickling your beautiful ears. This is your host, Mr. Morgan. Apologies for the delay. Been out on vacation, did a little bit of summer vacationing, traveled quite a bit, got to go out with my wife. We'd never really done like a honeymoon type deal, so that was really cool. Got to go without the kids to the ocean. Yeah, got to go to the legendary Comedy Store over there in LA. Got to do a backpacking trip shortly after I got back. So, again, apologies for the absence, but I do have some more content lined up, and I should be able to hit you guys every 2 weeks after this. Today on the show, I have the amazing professional fitness trainer, Mr. Patrick Ryan II. He hails from the land of enchantment's own Albuquerque in central New Mexico. This gentleman has, I don't know how many clients he has in particular, but if you guys actually take the time to take a look at what Patrick has to offer, his website, his social media following, you will find that these really innumerable amount of people that have worked with him and his followers essentially, or really anybody that knows Pat, has nothing but good things to say about him. Everything he does is just top shelf. He said it's best inside the interview that essentially he's become more of a life coach than he has just a fitness instructor. So I think you guys are really going to like this. We talked about a lot of things, health related, fitness related. We even talk about things like social media, spending time on electronics, spending time with family, mental health. Just kind of wanted to jump all over the board and amend the conversation we had, which was, a lot of you guys reached out to me and told me how beneficial that was to kind of, if not starting something, maybe reinforcing some positive habits in your life. And of course, that's what Patrick's an advocate for. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to check out Patrick at his site. That's http://aware.training. You have to type the entire thing in that I just told you. That way you get to the correct website. You can also find him on Instagram at aware_lifeabq. Reach out to the man if you've been putting off those health and fitness goals, and health can mean a lot of things, and you'll hear exactly what he's talking about. And not only in this podcast, but of course, go ahead and go back, check out episode, I think it was 31 or 32. I can't remember which one that we did in the past in terms of the number. But yeah, definitely started this conversation. This is to add to it, and I hope to bring him on again and do kind of like a coach's corner. So if you guys have any questions or you guys have anything that you've kind of been sitting on, feel free to shoot me an email. That's contact@aperchofbirds.com, and that'll go directly to me as questions for when we do a coach's corner with Pat in a future podcast. I appreciate the hell out of you guys. Thank you for listening, and keep pursuing that greatness. Cheers.
Yeah, so this is part two of our conversation we had on fitness, on health, on kind of on a lifestyle of being healthy, and I think that was the point that we got across on the last one. So yeah, so Pat's here to join us and kind of talk to us a little bit more in depth about what it is that he does with Aware training. The thing that I wanted to start out with, because we had touched on a lot of stuff, but let's dive in deeper maybe. Cool. Like, what do you do to we established that Aware training, you're a professional fitness trainer. This is what you do, 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. You're a degreed individual. So you have the salt, you have the resume. Mm-hmm. What do you do when you're coaching somebody and they really want to be at that point that you are laying out in front of them, but you're not typically there yet, or they're not typically there yet. Mm-hmm. And as time goes on, as time typically does, they start to falter. So like talk to me, man. Like, what kind of mindset are you portraying to people that like they may have done like 30 days of your challenge, 60 days, maybe 6 months of your challenge, and now they're starting to get into a lifestyle where we had talked about this before, like kind of relapsing, but it's not necessarily relapsing. It's a matter of like old habits coming back, even in subtle ways. So talk to me, man. Like, what do you see out there when you're working with clients, and what? Because I'm sure that's the biggest struggle. Like you said, your 4 to 6 week programs, you could sell the hell out of those,
Right.
but to get somebody to make a commitment that's bigger than that, like a year and or lifetime,
Right.
that's the part that's hard to hold together.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So talk to me, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I would agree with you. It's quote unquote a hard sell. Selling what I call the long game. Right. So. We could just start with the name of my service. It's Aware Online Coaching. So the main word being aware.
Sure.
And I think it's a pretty strong representation of my style of coaching, to where I'll quote a really one of my favorite lyrics from one of my favorite artists, Bass Nectar, in which during one of his songs, it is stated in the phrase, "It first has to happen in the mind."
Sure.
And I really, really feel that's the main motivation and main style behind my coaching, to where I tell every single client that I work with, whether it be in person or in this case online, what brings them in the door is exercise.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They want someone to help guide them through movement, guide them through exercise. But through and in doing that, they come to find out, whoa, this is way more in depth of an experience than just putting me through a workout.
And in that sense, do you find that you have to spark the motivation behind people, or do they come to you with that? Like, is there like somebody's been fat shamed long enough to where they're like, I'm tired of it. I'm 30 years old. I'm ready to start changing things.
Well, yeah, it's always going to depend. It's a case by case basis. But like talking about the shaming piece, it could be dealing with people who have been shamed externally by other people, or they've dealt with enough hardship and headache and beating themselves up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like internally, to where they're like, okay, I want to try something different.
Sure.
And my main hope is just to show them that it doesn't have to be with me, but other individuals, generally speaking, within the industry, that there are other professionals in the industry that aren't strictly living within the confines of, I guess you could say, kind of like bro science and bro culture, to where it's like, yeah, just pump weight.
Yeah.
Just lift weight, push yourself till you puke, like shut up, lift heavy, train hard, no excuses. I came from that background, and
Sure.
just letting them know that there's a much more in-depth, I would hope a much more holistic and compassionate approach to coaching somebody through their journey.
Sure. Do you get a different reaction with that approach from younger people compared to people in their middle age? Because I know you said, when we talked before about you deal with a lot of middle-aged folks, more so than not. But when you do deal with somebody that's in their 20s and they want to tackle their first 5K or 10K,
Right.
or just the weight loss thing, which I'm sure is 9/10 of what you deal with in terms of what clients want.
Right.
Do you feel like they react differently to your coaching style?
It's an interesting question. I'd say obviously yes, but I get it all across the board. It's really funny. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I almost feel like it's a yes and a no.
Okay.
The reason being is part of what I found so interesting about how I have chosen to present myself and how I have chosen to present my style of coaching. It's filtering in and out the type of people I want to work with anyway.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people may not like how I present myself. And that's fine. Like, I don't expect every single person that wants a personal trainer want a personal trainer.
Are you saying that they want you to be like Arnold-sized cat in order to be taken as credible?
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
not only that, but just like how they want to be coached.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say about 90+% of the clients I work with, they fit my mold of the type of people I want to work with anyways.
Yeah.
And I'm inadvertently filtering in and out the type of people that I want to work with based just on how I present myself.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't come as any kind of a surprise.
Sure.
Not only through the service-based industry, but through, like, look at your group of friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how you choose to genuinely present yourself is going to filter in and filter out the people that are really cool with that and not cool with that.
Right.
So,
and we talked about this in depth in the last podcast, and I really like that we stole into this because I feel like, especially, you and I'm 30, you're, what, 29, 28, somewhere in there?
29.
Yeah. So with that being the case, a lot of us are still going to be victims of our upbringing where we have a lot of influence from our friend circle. And I know that we talked about that, like basically auditing your friend circle.
Right.
I want to quit drinking for 30 days and I'm going to chat with these guys. I'm not going to chat. I get invited to a party, to go watch a fight, to go watch American Idol. I don't
Sure, whatever.
you go to do this thing. Hey man, here's a beer,
Right.
and this isn't in your plan that you've worked with the past. So how do you gauge? How do you coach somebody in that scenario where they're not supposed to be taking in those carbs and or alcohol at that point in time, especially in a moment like that? And this relates to a lot of the stuff we talked about, like being on travel and stuff like that.
Sure.
You go out to a bar with coworkers or things like that, friends. There's 1,000 scenarios like that might come up.
Right.
What do you do to tell somebody that's in that impressionable age, like we talked about? Let's say less than 30 and over
And
that
beyond,
age as well.
because,
Yeah.
it's prevalent regardless.
What's the advice you give to a cat like that? Because I feel like that's a falling off point. If I'm solid with Pat, me and you are hooked up on this training.
Oh, sure.
And then I go out and we talked about this. I'm scared to tell you the next day.
Right. So, it's an ever evolving dynamic, right? So, ultimately I feel like it falls back to a really, really strong phrase, or rather mantra, that I try to keep in my own practice of living life, as well as every client that I coach. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So it's acknowledging,
That's interesting.
Related to maybe this friends circle dynamic that we're kind of hovering and circling around. It's acknowledging, like, okay, we're not going to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, you wanted to stop drinking for 30 days and you slipped up and you had a couple beers.
Sure.
And just knowing that they have a compassionate and, a professional that is compassionate in their corner, I'm interested in learning about those experiences.
Sure.
And I feel that's where a deeper bond is created with my clients, and them knowing, oh, okay, I don't have to keep secrets from my trainer in order for me to make any amount of progress, or feel like I'm going to make any progress, because I've been a part of that camp as well, to where you screw up on the weekend, and then I'm the judgmental coach that's just like expecting you to be perfect all the time.
Sure.
And you slip up and you just lie to me to save any headache. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's no progress being made there.
Yeah.
So I've got to be very, very, very proactive in letting them know, like, I am not worried.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not.
People mess up.
And I'm not afraid. I encourage you to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to judge you. For instance, I worked with a client that obviously was having a bad day. We're talking before a session or before her workout, and I could tell she was frantic. I could tell she was all over the place. There was so much tension to the beginning of the session, and we started with an exercise. She was fumbling all over the place, and it just got to the point to where, like, obviously exercise is not going to fix how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I kind of forced her to stop what she was doing.
Wow.
And sit with what she was feeling. And she started to cry.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she had never cried in front of me ever before, but not only with a trainer, but I'm talking, this bleeds out into just life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was encouraging her, like, if you need to cry. I don't care if it takes 2 minutes of this session, 5 minutes, or the entire session. Like, you obviously need to vent. And
do you feel a bit of your professionalism crack when you're in those situations? Like,
what do you mean?
Well, you're not going to be as sensitive with the person that's screaming and yelling, throwing up deadlifts as you are the person that's breaking down on you.
Sure.
Do you feel like just naturally, like, you feel like you come to a personal place that's outside of, like, the aware trainer side? Because you've got to be tough in that respect in a lot of places, but then you've got to learn to be soft. Do you feel like, to you, is it hard to, like, switch those hats? You know what I mean? Like,
no,
okay, I can't work out anymore. Now I've got to talk about what's bothering you.
No, not at all. And the reason being is because I I feel very confident in knowing that that's a strength of mine. Like I get off on knowing that I can go in depth with people.
Sure.
And I'm no longer afraid to have the tough conversation around what terrible thing is going on in their life or what they struggled with that day. I'm looking for bonding. I'm looking for relationship building. And by all means, I'm not forcing my clients to do that. But if I can tell that something's wrong, my guess is the vast majority of their day, they've encountered tens, maybe hundreds of people that have seen that something was wrong and no one fucking asked anything.
That's huge that you said that, man.
You know what I mean?
Is. Yeah.
You know, it's like they went to work, they saw people were struggling or people saw them struggling. They went to the restaurant and ate and nobody asked.
Yeah. And I'm one of those people that I've had, this isn't the best thing to say, but I've had like 28, 29 jobs and I'm 30, you know? And some of them kept for 3 or 4 years. Some of them I chopped through 4 of them in a year. And I would say that it really comes down to that feeling of community, the village that you have.
Right.
You know, the place I'm at now, they're huge. They would sense that. They would sense that downtrodden feeling. But there's other places where so many people are downtrodden that they almost are like, well, now you feel the way I do.
Right.
You know, and it speaks to a lot of like corporate culture, Americanism, you know, workaholics and all that stuff. But I think it's coming back to what you're saying. Like this is a stout thing to, if you can face this off, then that's probably the biggest obstacle for that person that day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, not only that day, but knowing that they have an advocate and they're like, oh man, like I thought I hired a trainer, but they did, but it's much different than what they were expecting.
Sure, it goes deeper.
Yes, I genuinely believe and know that I'm not in the personal training business. I'm in the relationship business.
Sure.
We're
That's
working
huge.
with humans here.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be exclusive to personal training. It's any service that you provide.
Right.
Any service that you're providing where you're dealing with human beings, you need to treat them like human beings.
Can you give me an example of a time that you've been pulled out of not personal training advice, but got a call like, my boyfriend broke up with me? You get any kind of stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah. Like
Okay.
it's very profound and I don't want to get too emotional, but I've had calls with online clients where we've cried together.
Sure.
And I'm crying just because they've hurt.
Yeah.
And it sucks to see them hurt, but it makes me happy knowing that they at least feel confident enough and feel comfortable enough to confide in me and letting me know. Like I had a client that lived out in Florida.
Yeah.
And she came home to find out that her boyfriend at the time was cheating on her. And okay, that's what part of our monthly, I call them monthly collaboration calls, where I spend about 15, 20 minutes checking in with my clients, seeing how the past month went, look at what the month ahead looks like, just check in, see how they're doing.
Yeah. And this was the 800-pound gorilla in the room for that individual.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but that's what I mean. It's like, sure, by all means, my service is providing nutrition counseling and exercise programming, but it's far deeper than that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There's so much more going on in your life outside of the 1 hour out of the day that you're exercising and say the hour plus collectively that you're spending eating, you know, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
Everything that you're going through every single day of your life is influencing your exercise, your eating, et cetera, et cetera.
Including your personal life and like the relationships
100%.
you have. Sure.
So that's what I mean by what gets people in the door is the exercise and the eating. And then they come to find out that there's a huge behavioral psychology, psychological component.
To this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to your earlier question around, you know, who I work with and their response to that, as I have continued to stay true to my coaching style and my ethos of coaching and service, in my opinion, as a human being, it's already filtering in and filtering out the people that want to work with me and the people that don't. And that's fine. Like there are people that want a trainer that's going to just beat the shit out of them. Sure. And that's fine. If that's what they want, I'm not your person. I can stimulate your body. I can put you through good workouts. I can challenge you, but I'm not your guy if you're wanting me to be a boot camp style coach.
Have you been hit up by a cat that, for lack of saying a lot of things, is well off and is able to pay you in a way that they assume would be that you can knock on their door every morning and get them rolling? Is that the? I mean, do you have that do you have that piece to your business? Do you have that spot where if you pay like a ridiculous amount of money, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Somebody
okay, so if they're willing to, if someone's interested in paying enough, could they have me in their back pocket?
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've had that before?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Like, so,
okay.
but obviously the investment in that is far greater than other options that I have. But
sure.
Yeah, if you're wanting all of my time and want to know, digitally speaking, that you have me in the back of your pocket
right.
or in your phone, and you can message me and speak with me as frequently as you want. Yeah, that's an option by all means necessary.
But typically it's not that as intense in terms of you waking somebody up every morning 7 days a week.
No. No, and I don't know that I will ever do that.
Right.
Because it's really interesting, because in this regard, and relative to what we're kind of discussing here, this is an element where I would disagree in the the thinking that the customer is always right.
Okay.
Because the customer in this regard thinks they know what they want. And because it's interesting, because I remember having a conversation with a colleague, I guess I'll call it, a buddy of mine, who was trying to nudge me in regards to my style of coaching to advocate for like 24/7 access for my clients.
Right.
That doesn't make them better at navigating their own health.
Right.
I'm a crutch at that point. I'm enabling them.
Right.
Because then they know, anytime I deal with a hardship, or I'm worrying about a craving or something like that, I can reach out to Pat and
right.
talk to him. It's like, no, you've got to navigate that space on your own. Like, I'll use myself as an example. I see a therapist. It's not going to do me any good every single time I deal with anxiety, and every single time I'm dealing with depression or I'm feeling like shit, knowing that, I can just call Jay,
right,
and I know he can always bail me out. Like, no, I need to go through some shit by myself.
You need to be able to calm yourself down.
Well, yeah, and know that, okay, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to figure this out, and then I can, whenever I schedule time to see him, we can talk about it, and then collaborate with one another as to, okay, this is what you did well. This is what you could do a little bit better.
Yeah.
Go put it into practice.
Right.
And it's no different with people's exercise and eating. Obviously, there are extenuating circumstances in which people have an emergency, and I have that laid out within working with them.
I just seen this coconut pie, and I wanted to eat it, Pat.
I would say I would. You know what I mean, but like extending far beyond that, where it's if you need to reach out to me in an emergency, just like with my own therapist, where if shit has really hit the fan and you're struggling, let's find 10 minutes to talk. Like, that's awesome. That's in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting, like, to give you some examples around the whole filtering in and out of the type of, I guess you could say, the type of client that I work with. As I have continued to stay true with my message, and I would hope, like, the greater amount of depth far beyond exercise, because exercise and eating well are just dimensions of positive habits and characteristics relative to a good, healthy, well-rounded well-being.
Right.
You know what I mean? So obviously I'm coaching them very in depth around that, but I'm letting them know, okay, there are other dimensions to this that are going to affect
your ultimate outcome, essentially.
Right. Would be worth employing, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, as I've continued, I just get tired of, I'm trying to find a unique balance of, yes, giving people really high quality stimulating information around exercise and eating, but as well as like the mental component. Because for me personally, this is all relative to my own personal journey. Like, I love exercise, I love eating well, but I also kind of get tired of beating a dead horse. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Like, there's a whole
I don't want chicken and broccoli.
Well,
tonight,
there's a whole other dimension. I'm talking like mentally speaking. Okay. Like, there's a whole different dimension.
Can we make it? So what we could say is, we could say officially, Pat also has days when he has problems going to the gym.
Oh, 100%.
Sure.
100%.
That's good.
Where I hate it.
You are human.
Yeah, I'm human too, man. Just because I have an easier time getting into movement and an easier time staying consistent with my eating doesn't make me perfect. Like, this goes into the whole piece of people thinking the grass is always greener on the other side. Like, what are you thinking? Like, I'm human. I struggle too. I struggle just as much as the next person.
So I guess and you may answer this for your clients. I guess a question would be, for a cat at your level, what is a challenge for you? So you're personally, you have your own fitness journey that started since you were born,
right.
Amplified through your uncle, then through the family member that kind of changed the way you thought about things. And it has gotten to a point where I'm sure the focus has turned more on your clients, purely because that's, the same as me with computers. When I was a kid, I learned about computers on my own, but now I can help people with computers. So my focus is more about the end user and kind of getting into their boots. But for you, what is like something that you challenge yourself with in order to keep you vivacious in this this sector of job that you're into, as well as being a hobby?
Okay. So relative to my own journey,
right.
You're saying. Yeah, I would say the biggest theme, and it's interesting because I feel like it's been brewing for years, and I'm just now at a point where it's actually starting to blossom. So this goes hand in hand with, I think a lot of people can relate to this, and this falls into the journey that lasts longer than 4 to 6 weeks, and acknowledging like this is lifelong. Things are going to evolve.
Right, like we talked about before, longer than these quick diets or quick changes. Sure.
Yeah. So for me, the most unique shift and unique part of my journey is just being okay and knowing and being interested in engaging in activity that doesn't revolve around being inside of a gym.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like, for instance, it's going to be my day off tomorrow morning. I would love to sleep in, but I will be getting up at 4:30 tomorrow morning to go mountain bike with my best friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will be working my ass off, mountain biking super hard. How does that not count as a workout?
Right.
You know what I mean? And how I understand it's not the exact same thing as lifting weights, but it's activity.
Absolutely.
So, and that comes from a place where in the past, again, bodybuilding was my origin, or my inception rather, to exercise, but I struggled with it a lot, to where like I feel like this center within me that truly wanted to get outdoors and wanted to experience different styles of exercise, hiking, trail running, mountain biking, road biking. Yeah. But it wasn't lifting weights. Right. So I wouldn't do it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, and again, this was me going through in my opinion, my extreme phase of trying to do it all, which would ultimately burn me out, would be like, okay, well, if I want to hike, I still need to get a lift in that day. Oh, so like really? I'm doing double. Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Or I would just
2 days for no reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's what I try to convey to my clients. Like within my exercise programming through my platform, I give them 4 different options as to how to engage in movement. Yeah. One of those options is a do-it-yourself option, where it's like, okay, my feelings are not going to be hurt if I put together a full day's workout for you that day, and your buddy's in town for the weekend and he's like, let's go mountain bike, and you mountain bike instead of doing something my workout. Different. That counts.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And breaking down that stigma around, it's got to be, I feel like this is where I delve into that gray area and break out of the black and white and let people know, like, what are you talking about? You were outside mountain biking for 3-4 hours today. Yeah. It counts.
Sweating your ass off.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And letting them know, like, cool, I'm happy you didn't go to the gym today. Yeah. I'm happy you didn't do the workout that I put together for you.
Well, and I find that breaking the mold is the best thing. Like doing a straight gym session 24/7, I think you can get into a lot of things. I'm not going to speak out of turn because this is not my area of expertise. But to me, in my personal experience, I get overuse injuries from just consistently hitting the gym because I'm not switching it up.
It's it's really you're really touching on some interesting facets of my journey. And it's important to look at this through a long-term lens. Like, if I'm lucky, I hope to continue to live a very long time. Right. You know, I'm 29 years old. We are still young.
Hopefully got another 50 to 60
years. We've got time. So like, why are we getting so caught up in getting in the weeds over, I need to be doing this specific style of exercise for my whole life. So like, that's really where I'm at. I'm at this really unique pivot to where, like, sure, I know I went to school for this. Like, I know the value of strength training and resistance training, but for me, I have done that style of training for 6-7 years religiously.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of tired of it.
Yeah.
Like as much as people are different. People can do it their whole life and get off to it and they love it. But for me, I don't feel like it's nourishing a part of my soul. It's like, okay, I'm in this building filled with artificial light.
Right.
Not to mention at times in a facility filled with people that are posturing.
Yeah.
They're trying to look good.
Right. We talked about
It
this.
does
I
not
love how you
resonate.
put
Like
that.
there are times where it just does not resonate with me. And it's like, okay, I want sunlight. Like I want to be outside. Like at some point in time, I will be in the process of building a pull-up bar and buying equipment to do workouts outside in my backyard.
Right.
And just to change it up, but just acknowledging like life is a constant pivot.
Yeah.
Just because I'm taking, like I'll still lift, like ultimately no more than 3 days a week, but
Right.
I'm truly at the point where if I get that 2 to 3 days of lifting in, I will not do any extra lifting sessions in the gym.
Sure.
Anything else outside of that, I have to get outside.
Right.
I've got to go do something different.
And see, I've kind of cued in something similar purely through experience. And what I like about your perspective on this is that you're able to tune this through other humans. So it's something you can look at and see the efficacy of you trying to do maybe more gym time than cardio time.
Right.
And cardio could be a big, differentiator. It could be anything, right? Like you said, mountain biking, hiking, snowboarding, let's say. But I think through my own experience, I've noticed that if I continue to hit the gym, like I used to do the treadmill quite a bit, and the treadmill is an easy one because people will get on the treadmill and they're like, well, I'm doing that thing. For me, it was more of a motion thing. I eventually got to the point where it would hurt my knees because my body, just from habit, I would get into this mode that was an improper running form because of the way the treadmill belt comes at you.
Right.
Most people, they're going to the treadmill because it's easy. But then you'll see regimens. I feel, and this is just me coming from my perspective, they fall off from that because they get bored with it. And I have not been on a treadmill. I've probably been on a treadmill 2-3 times in the last year and a half, 2 years.
Right.
Because I used to do it so much and my knees would hurt. And I got to the point where I realized that going outside was good for me.
Right.
But then I also realized that I didn't have it in my mind as a workout. I would explore things. I would go find places because I would actually go for a run.
Right.
And it made it just that much more interesting. Like I said, getting sun. I mean, at the core of it, it's getting vitamin D to go outside.
Yeah, like it's been a really fun experience for me, and by all means, like it's helping break down a lot of worries around exercise because this is my first time ever going through, I guess you could say, this quote unquote transition of like, okay, lifting weights, strength training, doing stuff in a quote unquote gym is beneficial, like it's super healthy. I've lived that for 7 years, maybe. No, I know it's been more than that. It's ever since I was realistically a senior in high school. So it was 2008. So I'm well over 10 years at this point. You know what I mean? Lifting weights. And as the more I get outdoors, we've talked about exploring New Mexico and stuff like that. And this is what I talked about on the Albuquerque Business Podcast is just my motivation now to be active and to be healthy is like, I want to continue to interact with the earth.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the trail running, the mountain biking, like
it's different every time. Right,
100%.
Comparatively to the gym where you know what you're doing that day, the things you'll see, the people you'll see.
And it's also within just what I'm learning is really helping me mentally. There's the physical component to where I know I can feel it. I'm giving my body a considerable amount of rest from a lot of the heavy weights, a lot of the pushing and grinding on my joints from weightlifting. That by all means there was a huge mental outlet in regards to aggression for weightlifting. But
we talked about this,
I don't feel like I'm in that place anymore mentally where I'm just not that angry that often.
I've talked about it in the podcast, but I didn't talk about it in hours. But I relate that mindset to like metal bands, even rap bands, as they get more popular and then they get paid more. What do you have if your music was based in anger and or strife,
right?
And then you get this you're worth better part of $1 billion, $500 million, $250 million. And what do you have to be mad about? And then what do you expect that music to sound like? It's not going to be that same, like you had that vivaciousness when you were just digging those weights and you saw the direct feedback when you could just like look yoked at 20 something years old, you know, and then now it's what's funny is that with humans, it's really about the mindset and the value, because if you don't value that, then now it doesn't seem like the way it did when you were 22. You know?
It's really interesting. Yeah. It's a fascinating dynamic, and we're just going through life and we're figuring out the best we can. But yeah, I'll use the comparison of two of my favorite artists, and they're rather two polar opposites.
Okay.
I'm a diehard fan of Korn.
Okay.
Like heavy new metal, like super aggressive. I still love them just as much as I did when I was younger. And then another one of my favorite artists is Bass Nectar.
Okay.
Polar opposite style of music, as well as a polar opposite message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I gravitate more towards Bass Nectar's music and music similar to it, because I feel like it resonates with where I'm at in my life more, to where it's like be a positive influence. Like when I go to concerts of his Bass Nectar's, I view it's a continuing ed for me. Like, it's a party and it's fun, but I'm doing some heavy reflection, and I'm summoning gratitude and being happy and taking care of people.
In the same breath, can you not say that the sober version of Korn and the sober version of like Aerosmith, they're now trying to lean in that avocation? You know what I mean? Like they're trying to lean in that direction of positivity and sobriety and.
Well, but it's all it's all a matter of like how deep in context do you want to go behind the message? Because still, I'm not trivializing their music and what they've done. Like I've got 60 hours worth of tattoos on me that are Korn related. Okay. You know what I mean? So like they were.
Is that Untouchables? Is that what I see right there?
Yeah. It's I have like my entire right arm.
That's my favorite Korn album.
Oh, really? That's mine too. That's awesome.
That's legit.
Yeah. So I'm not saying their message is wrong. It's just different. And there's nothing wrong with it being different.
Well, he took it in a different way. I mean, let's say what we can say, but he had some issues. The lead singer of Korn, molested as a child, on and so forth. So he ended up venting through that. And let's take that and let's take that same concept and put it to weightlifting.
Right.
Molestation, not the same thing, but your strife in life led
to the
being
point, angry and having an outlet, like whatever it is that you're going through. And it worked and it helped. Like I was going through family related stuff. I went through what it felt like at the time, at that young of an age, a traumatic breakup, and I was livid. I was furious. And instead of me hurting someone, instead of me hurting myself, instead of me getting super destructive, I was like, okay, I'm going to exercise. And I exercised a lot and aggressively.
If only like the whole U.S.
But you know what I mean? So like but I think it lends really unique insight, you know, continuing to redirect it relative to what we're talking about, like just art in general. Some of the most beautiful, most incredible art and work and service and companies and just success in general comes from people suffering.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So like relative to the music thing, like everybody in that band went through life. Yeah. You know, whatever it was, good, bad, or indifferent. It was really tough. And they channeled that into an outlet that has helped millions of people. Right. You know what I mean?
And it can be taken in so many different directions. You know, people can say that they got saved because of Korn's, you know, lyrics or songs or absolutely finding out the actual story. So let me ask you this. Here's a challenging one. What do you do with the guy that got the degree, got the good job, has the Porsche, has everything except for the health in check? Mm-hmm. How are you motivating the people that have it all? The people that are, you know, and materials not have it all, but like, you know, in terms of like
culturals, our cultural view, quote unquote, has it all.
Yeah, but homie can't fix the belt line and you know, maybe the sex drive and many things that incorporate into that, you know.
In my opinion, it all comes down to what's going on between the ears. Sure. But it's me acknowledging that some people are a slow burn. Yeah. You know, I've worked with clients for years that have taken 2-3 years to like actually open up. Wow. And like be a little bit more friendly and like tell me about their life and what they're working, like what they're really struggling with. And then I have clients that right off the bat, they tell me. But it's really important for me to let them know, like, every single new client I possibly am going to work with through my online platform, I schedule an entire hour to talk to them. I need to make sure because it's the client that I'm serving. I need to make sure that they are comfortable and most importantly confident in my style of coaching.
Right.
They're investing not only in themselves, but they're investing in me through doing that. You know what I mean? So I need to make sure that they know, hey, I'm Patrick Ryan. Yes, I will teach you how to exercise more efficiently and effectively. Same with navigating your eating habits in a much more sustainable manner. However, there's a much deeper level of coaching that you have access to if you want to go that route.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Some people, they're like, okay, that's cool. I can tell they don't really want it, but as time goes on, the evolution of their relationship and their communication with me changes to where, they become a little bit more open. And it's through that lens, I feel like there's an art in my opinion, there's an art to my job in being patient, because I'm at this point in my career, I'm just not going to come in and be like, hey, Morgan, I just met you. Like, I'm going to start ripping off some Band-Aids,
right?
Ripping open some wounds.
Because they'll probably pull away from your program, being that you're making too drastic of a change in your lifestyle.
Sure. But also, but we experience this in daily life. And I know we as people struggle with it because we often worry about what other people are going to think.
Right.
But what I've noticed has helped is me being vulnerable with them as to what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I know for a fact, it was just about a year ago was when I actually was able to put a name and a face to my anxiety and really come to terms with like, oh my God, I've been living with this my entire life. Yeah. And I just thought this was how people lived. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, you're a small business owner, man.
Right.
Right. Every right.
Right. But like knowing that I've dealt with it ever since I was a kid.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And sharing that story with friends, sharing that with clients, because I'm a human too. Like I can't come in to each session and each call with a client and be this robot that's just got it all together.
Well, I work like in a clinic, and I have a lot of people that comment constantly on my weight, and like, they'll ask me what I did for lunch. I'm like, well, I went to the gym, and they're like, oh, it must be, and so there's a lot of offhanded comments about a guy like you and the things that you do. And, and I start laughing because I'm like, as much as it seems like it, like I fucking hated going to the gym today. Right. I fucking hated my run yesterday. Yeah. Like I was telling my wife today about, I don't know how many times I've gone on a run, and being a runner, that's like more or less my mode.
Right.
I know for a fact through eons of running, wisdom that there is out there. If you really don't feel like it, when you go for a run, you're going to shit on your form, and you could ultimately have a bad run physically, and maybe you shouldn't go. And I don't know how many times I've just tried to explain to people that it really comes down to willpower. But additionally, it comes down to who it is. I didn't say it in these words specifically, but to Patrick it a little bit, but who's in your corner. And to me, and I'm sure that you can say the same thing, now it's me. I'm the guy in my corner, because even if I don't have a trainer per se, I have some people that motivate me, like you and a few other people that I can look to online that give me that, like, yeah, you know what, I will go for that run.
Right.
But when it comes down to me and I'm looking at these things, it's hard for me to try to look at somebody and say, well, it's this thing in particular that's causing me to get up and go, and it was really a modicum of a lot of things that have come after me.
Right.
And I think that humans don't necessarily possess the ability to do that, especially in our day and age. So when you come to somebody and you try to motivate them, what do you see more often than not? Do you see people that are trying to lose weight, or do you see people like, what is the most common theme that people are coming to you with that you have to level with them? You're talking about leveling with them. What is the most common thing that people come to you with?
Oh, I think it's pretty obvious. The vast majority of people want to lose weight,
sure.
But there's an art to getting, whether it's right off the bat or over a few months, and figuring out like what their true why is.
Like the motivation behind that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of what I was alluding to.
I feel, again, everybody is going to be different, but from what I've noticed, a lot of people, it's rooted in, they just want to feel confident and secure in their bodies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They want to feel sexy to their significant other. They want to feel happy, calm, cool, collected, and most important, confident, in their own skin.
Yeah.
But it's also just a means of everybody's going to be different, but it's a means of navigating that through the mental space as well.
Yeah.
And what usually helps shift people's focus around, changing their habits over time from not sharing much information with me or with their significant other as to like what they're struggling with. I feel like me not worrying about letting them know, okay, I went through this, like I'm going through this is tough, and being vulnerable with them. And then really, whether it's with clients or I encourage everybody to just live their life that way. Like, be real.
Well,
like,
I like how you
vulnerable.
have your posts have a lot to do with being normal, like eating at Blake's Lottaburger, you
Right.
know? And for you cats that are not from here, Blake's is basically like a cleaner Burger King.
Oh,
it's like a grilled burger
regardless,
kind of
it's
thing.
just way better.
Okay, yeah, you know, the flavor is one of a kind
Right.
for sure.
Right.
But to me, it's like In-N-Out. Like I'm a big California cat.
Right,
I go
right.
to California and I'm like In-N-Out, you
Right.
know, and go get you so. And it's that type of thing for a New Mexican is to go to Blake's Lottaburger.
Sure.
The only reason why I ask is because I was curious about, you know, the different things that come at you and where you've had to grow as a personal trainer,
Sure.
you know, and I'm sure that's the biggest respect because we talked about it kind of lightly. I feel like in your corner as to what you deal with. Have you had things that come up to you where you've had to do research in order to come back to a client
100,
and be like,
100%.
I need to know how to reply?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm never gonna blow smoke up any of my clients' skirts and just letting them let. It's impossible. It's unrealistic for me to tell any client that, oh, like whatever ailment or thing that you've got going on, I can do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not realistic.
Right.
So yeah, there are plenty of times where I have to do a moderate amount of investigating and researching, or a significant amount. It just depends on the client, as well as just I need to. And this is the interesting thing. I've had clients be super surprised when I refer out.
Okay.
Whether it's to different trainers that obviously can do a better job than I can relative to what they're needing help with, or as well as referring out for different services. Like I have a network of people that I work with from chiropractic work. Shout out to Dr. Casey Little out in Corrales.
Right
we
on.
love you. I love you. As well as, you know, I have a colleague that I refer out for massage, Andrew Nez over at Aurora Sky Therapeutic Massage out on the west side.
Sure.
It's just I need to know, like I can't do everything, you know, and knowing that, okay, through working with me and relative to whatever they're working on, I just view myself as the professional filter. So I know, okay, is this more than I can handle? If it's more than I can handle, I'll refer to another trainer, another colleague within my support network, etc., to make sure they get good, they get taken. Oh yeah, and they get taken care of. But it's really interesting how people are kind of surprised about that, because maybe they're used to people just wanting to
own it all.
Well, yeah, own it all and take their money. But it's like, no, your health and well-being is super important, regardless of whether you're working with me or someone else.
I find this in IT. If I do side stuff, there's things that are way outside of me. Like I don't have all the knowledge in IT, and it's easy for a layman to determine, oh, you're into, you know, you work in IT, you know everything, you know, and I don't. So if I do a side gig, there's times when I'm like, I've got to get you in touch with this guy and he's got to do X, Y, Z, because I'm not even going to try to do it, because I'm going to be stressing myself out and you're not going to get good support on it and so forth. So I could definitely relate to that, because I feel like that is something that you have to do at certain points, especially things that are medical. Chiropractic, let's talk about gray area, is a gray area for medical. Because a lot of medical doctors would say that chiropractic is not really medical science, whereas a chiropractor, we've all, let's say, if and when you've been to a chiropractor, I feel like you have seen the benefits of getting all that crazy shit popped in your body.
Oh, yeah, but it's all a matter of making sure you're working with the right people.
Yeah.
And that's where I come back to me being a professional filter. I have yet to refer anybody to any of the services that I don't do, that I refer out, that people haven't been 100% satisfied. So that's part of my job. It's the difference between me sending them to a professional and me sending them to some like scam artist that's going to possibly injure them. You know?
Here's some what do they call it? The oils, the essential oils.
Oh, sure. Right.
That's always the thing, the essential oils.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give away too much of it, but I feel like I didn't do this on the last podcast. I want to make sure that we talked about this. I'm a 30-year-old male. Let's say that I weigh 20 pounds more than I do now. Maybe I have a slight smoking habit. I like to smoke when I drink.
Okay.
I want to join Aware. So what can I expect out of a basic Aware session? You don't have to give me the exacts, but what's it look like? Hey, man, I'd love to get into your service. What are we looking at?
Yeah. So I would say as long as you have an internet connection, a device to access the internet, as well as a reliable email address, we're set. Okay. So through a digital kind of storefront, I'm sending you daily if you're doing the nutrition counseling portion or even the exercise component, you're going to be receiving daily emails from me that are ultimately redirecting you to your Today page through the platform that have a daily nutrition lesson that takes 5 to 10 minutes to read through or listen to. I include a SoundCloud link to listen through it.
Oh, that's cool.
And all I ask you to do is just dedicate 5 to 10 minutes of your day for the nutrition piece to just read.
Okay.
Read through the lesson. At the end of each lesson, I ask you a couple questions. It's super imperative that you answer them. That way, once you submit them, I'm automatically notified Morgan has finished A, B, C, or D lesson. I get to review it and then provide additional insight, advice, encouragement.
That's interesting.
So through that particular dimension of the platform, you and I are having daily conversation through. You're answering the questions as to, I coach you through multiple habits throughout the entire year that I work with you.
Sure.
But you're answering them through the lens of your life.
Right.
And okay, how can we incorporate more veggies in your diet? How can we be more mindful of our eating and whether or not we're distracted during what you've got going on instead of me, which it's an old school approach that I have come from that I will never go back to, which is a coach centered approach where it's, Morgan, you're going to meet me where I'm at. Do the strict meal program, do the workouts, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I don't want to hear any excuses. Live with that. But it's interesting because a lot of clients still feel like they need that.
Right.
And it's nothing short of art in me guiding them and showing them, you think you need that, but for sustained and greater adherence to your own health and navigating your health, you actually don't. You need the
I mean,
opposite.
you're like we talked about before, like an accountability coach, because even if you're filling a place that you wouldn't natively do that, like you see that the client needs that, and so you come into that spot.
Sure.
Do you? I guess when you look into somebody's accountability, are there people that are more sensitive to that? Speaking to our current generations, do you feel like there's people that are like, well, I tried. What the hell, Pat? Do you get a lot of feedback like that, or is it like...
yeah. See, but the thing is I don't think it's just a generational thing. It's a human thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I don't feel like I deal with it any differently than I do the younger generation or generations that are older than I am. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of extra work and reconditioning how people view the process.
Yeah.
I really like to view my clients and my style of coaching or my clients primarily as, we're the marathoners.
Yeah.
Why are we sprinting anywhere? There's no need. So when it comes to, say, they miss a few lessons and they haven't answered them, or they've missed a week.
You're talking about daily, the stuff that you're sending them that you talked about. Okay.
Yeah. So like them not checking into the lessons and not utilizing the platform because they've traveled or just whatever, like life happens. It's really interesting how a lot of people feel like the next best option is to quit.
Yeah.
But the thing is they've done that. You have to acknowledge they've been doing that in their entire life with everything else. So like, I've got to coach them through like, okay, you missed a week.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. I'm not mad.
Yeah. It's not a big deal.
Let's learn about, but that's what I mean. Like, let's talk about the sore spots. Let's talk about, okay, why'd we miss a week? What happened? I have, no joke. This is what I mean about getting to know people more in depth, because their life does not revolve around exercise. It does not revolve around
not for all of us.
but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, people
absolutely.
have lives. They've got other stuff that they've got going on. I worked with a client that was missing lessons, missing workouts for well over a month. And then they showed up and told me that they were struggling with an alcohol problem.
Okay, so I was going to feed back into that. So I listened to a book called, I believe it was called Relentless. Mm-hmm. This was the personal trainer, and of course, I don't have internet, so fun stuff, because you guys see me on the internet. I don't have it in my hand here. I'd pull it up on my phone. The book's called Relentless. So this is the personal trainer for Michael Jordan, for a lot of the big dogs. I can't remember his name. I'm sure everybody in the internet is going to be like, oh my God, it's so-and-so.
Right.
But his whole thing was the same thing, that he would coach people through things like that. And one of his clients that came to him, ultimately his issue is that he fell off for 2-3 weeks. And one of this coach's stipulations was, if you want to enter like his mainstream program, the one that the basketball players play with, if you're somebody that's well off enough to be able to afford that constant training, one of his stipulations is you cut off from sugar. Okay. And the guy was cutting off from sugar, from food and everything else. But when he would come in on his weekly sessions, he would dog ass. And the weight wasn't falling, and the trainer knew right out of the box. He said, "I know you're not following what I'm telling you to do." And ultimately the client finally, confessed. He said, "Look, I can't help it. I like to drink, and as we know, alcohol is essentially sugar.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the day, or carbohydrates, which is another form of sugar. So that was really what was bogging down his goals. So a guy like that, a guy that has a personal habit that has been there forever, friends or not, family or not, that's
Right.
helping this move along. What kind of advice do you have for a guy like that that's failed for that week and he can't beat that alcoholism?
Well, see, but it's also me knowing which hat to put on and knowing my scope of practice. So it's me knowing that I'm a dimension of their coping.
Yeah.
But I'm also not I'm not a counselor.
Yeah.
I'm not a therapist in that.
Not an Alcohol
regard.
Anonymous.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Guy. Yeah.
So it's like I have no problem. I'm going to encourage. Everybody knows that with this particular client, like continuing to exercise is going to be really beneficial. Like
Right.
that's going to be a smart bet. If you quit exercising, it's probably going to make things worse.
Right.
So being an advocate for them, continuing to show up to sessions and continuing to work out with me and all that kind of stuff, and talking to them and being a compassionate supporter of like, okay, like how are things going on the alcohol front? Like, have you found somebody to talk to that's more versed in this? Do you want my help to try and direct you? And like, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
And it's just knowing, okay, where is the extent of my scope of practice around all this? Because
Sure.
I'm not gonna say that I can help people pull people out of.
I'm not a drug or
alcoholism.
alcohol counselor.
Yeah, that's not my job. But again, it's acknowledging like I'm a part of a greater network that can be a part of this person's journey. You know what I mean? They've got their personal trainer. They've got maybe their yoga teacher. They've got their therapist,
priest.
Like
so
all
forth.
that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And they know, they're like, I view every client of mine as a boxer. Like when you go in
You're
after
telling me-
each round, like who's in your corner?
Yeah.
Is it just me?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you fine with it just being me? Or do you feel like you could benefit from having
Does
more?
that ever get overwhelming to you? To be like, and ballpark me here. How many clients would you say you have right now active?
I'd say well over 40 or more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you ever feel like it's a little much to be in that corner for 40 people?
Sometimes yes, but I'd say for the vast majority of it, no. It's just a matter of me being efficient and proactive in articulating like boundaries around stuff. You know what I mean? So like that's part of the whole thing of not giving 24/7 access. Like if I was giving 24/7 access, I would be losing my
Burned
mind.
out,
You know what I mean? So it's managing expectations around that. But again, I have to be super proactive, especially when I first start working with someone, as well as, every so often I might have to remind someone during where it's like, hey, like I'm more than willing to help you, but I've got my own life and I need my free time and all that kind of stuff to better serve you in the long run. But it's an evolution. Like I feel like I'm in a much better place with my coaching now than I was even during the first 2 or 3 years, to where it's like you just learn as you go.
Yeah. Well, so just to kind of get some basic highlights here. So we're talking Aware is coming with a nutrition piece. It comes with a training piece, which it would be, let's say gym, let's just say lifestyle, like exercise.
Oh yeah,
fitness.
like I give the client 4 different options on how to exercise: a full gym based workout, a crunch for time version of that gym based workout. So say you only have 20, 30 minutes, I condense that and give you a workout for that. And at home or travel / minimal equipment workout. So
like we talked about, like a hotel room or like a body weight
Yeah,
exercise.
exactly.
Sure.
And then the last one is that do it yourself. So I don't line out anything as to what they need to do, but if you went and hiked or you went and mountain biked or you did whatever,
Fill in the blank kind of thing.
Yeah. I give them an opportunity to write in exactly what they did. That way they give me an idea. It's like, oh, they ran 5 miles today instead of doing the workout, or they went and walked, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then within each option, obviously the exception being the do-it-yourself workout, the first 3, the full gym workout, the condensed, and the at-home workout, I give them videos showing them how to do each movement correctly, and safely, most importantly, as well as modifications for that movement. So each exercise I'm prescribing to them, I actually give them 3 different options.
Wow.
So if they want a more progressed or more difficult version, they can look at that. A moderate or mid-range level intensity of that movement, as well as a regressed or an easier version.
And this is nutrition, training. What am I missing? What am I getting as a wear so you've spoken about nutrition, we've talked about training. What else am I getting when I get into a wear training? Because I feel like I didn't really circle that, and I want to make sure that
you're saying relative to the nutrition.
Yeah, I want to pick you up as my trainer tomorrow. I know I'm getting nutrition. I know I'm getting the training piece. I know I'm getting the support, not necessarily 24/7.
Right.
Is there something else that I'm not speaking of that would be?
I'd say just the main theme of it is the chips are put in your corner as a client, and really knowing that you're being proactive and learning how to navigate your own health.
Yeah.
I think initially people, well, I don't know that they don't know, but this is part of hiring a coach. But I tell clients I view myself more as a facilitator and an educator more than I do a trainer. So it's guiding my clients more through the how than it is the what. So guiding them on how to navigate their day, how to navigate their eating habits around that day, how to navigate their coping strategies whenever they're stressed, all that kind of stuff.
So the reason why I was asking this is because I exercise enough on my own, and this is all my opinion, because I'm sure that if I was to put this in front of not just you, but let's just say 10 personal trainers, third party without me knowing it, looking at my situation, I run enough to where, and I exercise enough to where I know that for me, I'm at this point where I would need maybe a little bit more advanced stuff. If somebody wanted to come to you with more advanced stuff, how many of those clients do you think you have? I mean, do you have people that are looking at stuff that's pushing you in terms of like do you have any elitist kind of folks that are kind of messing with you? Not to say I'm an elitist for you guys listening.
But it's
people that are have hit some of these objectives that you would teach into somebody, because it feels like you're teaching a life skill. You're not necessarily giving them a 4 to 6 week plan.
Right.
So let's say you got people that you've gotten them to take these things. Do you have spots where they take it like a step further, where maybe they're like, I want to train for Boston Marathon times kind of stuff?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I don't, and to be honest with you, again, things might change in the future relative to the platform and what I provide, but it's not my niche, at least at this point in time.
I think you could though, man. You said this last time.
But I understand that, but what gets me going and what gets me excited is serving just regular people. Okay. And I'm not saying the regular person that runs the Boston Marathon isn't a regular people, but I'm talking about the people that are going through their day in and day out that might feel like
struggling.
Things may not be as fulfilling as they want it to.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Want it to be. So that's the population that I'm most interested in. There's obviously a very heavy general health component to it.
Okay.
But I get, at this point in time, I get more joy knowing that I was able to help, a father of 2 to 3 kids lose 40 pounds, 6 months into my program.
Yeah. I could see how that's fulfilling as hell.
And give him life
yeah.
and vitality and just so much more vibrance to his day that he may have never thought had existed.
Right.
Compared to an athlete achieving a huge, I don't know, but it might change as time goes on.
Yeah.
But
and if a guy came to you with that, I mean, would you be willing to take it on?
With what?
Let's say I want to go to Boston. Would you be willing to take me on?
Just depends on where you're at. Like I've worked with I'm working with a client that, or I've worked with a client that, loved to run.
Yeah.
But hadn't run in forever.
Huh.
And who's to say that I can't be the person that plants that seed to where they're like, I couldn't run 3 miles to save my life, and now they're running 6, 7, 8 miles.
I see.
And they, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's putting things into motion.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask is because at my level, sometimes I need that guy screaming at me in my sprint workout. It's the long runs I've gotten down pat. It's taken me a long years to go.
Right.
It's taken me a long time to go through nutrition and like the basics. quitting smoking cigarettes, tobacco across the board. You know, once I knock those things off, now I'm to this point where it's like I'm getting bored with those workouts, so I need to attend something more extreme in order to keep my interest.
Right.
And we just kind of touched on this kind of stuff. But, you know, that's what I'm curious about is if I wanted to, you know, because some people I think they have like okay, I want to lose weight, but what if I could run a Kona Ironman?
Sure.
Crazy talk. You know, maybe just run a half Ironman that they're doing down south or something like that.
Sure, which I have done.
Okay.
I have coached a particular client that had never done a triathlon ever and was like, I want to do a half hour Ironman. And we went about and did it. But it was a team approach. I was helping him with his strength training as well as a lot of his flexibility and mobility. But I was also referring out to a massage therapist to help work with actually it was Andrew Nez to help this client get so much more mobile and pliable and flexible, as well as this client was going and seeing a running coach from time to time, as well as going to see a bike coach. So it's not getting so caught up and worried about, oh my God, I don't know everything about, cycling. I don't know everything about like I know what I know, and I know it has value, and I know where that fits relative to people's journey. You know what I mean? So
in lieu of nutrition and training, lifestyle, I think that Aware Training and Patrick would be a very good resource for you guys listening. If you guys needed beyond the basics, and if you are beyond the basics, then as a resource, and maybe that spot that bridges the gap. So where can we get a hold of you in terms of the website? And we had talked about this in the past, but again, I just want to reiterate. So it's aware.training.
Yep.
But it's HTTPS.
No, HTTP:// aware.training.
HTTP, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then if people are interested in catching me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is aware. That's AWARE _ life, LIFEABQ.
Right. Okay. And then that would be the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. Or email me at patrick@aware.training.
Okay. I'm not trying to stop the podcast or anything, but I just want to make sure that we get to that point.
Yeah.
So I guess we were talking a lot about Aware. We did take a little bit of a break, a little siesta. But I wanted to come back and see if we could talk more about things that were a little bit more woo-woo. And we touched on this in the past in our last podcast, and then we have talked ever so slightly about things. But these podcasts go great whenever everybody's getting along, but I feel like that's not really what people like to listen to. They like to hear about differences, and they like to hear about conversation.
Right.
So one of the first things I'll talk about, which I thought was big, and I want to ask this because you're a healthy lifestyle advocate,
right?
Including like, let's make the planet better, not just let's, make humans' lifestyles better. So when people post things that are geotagging different locations, and again, let's feed this back into Aware. You would love for somebody to go to, there's those fields that were in California that had the rare poppies.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was California, right?
Yeah, the one I tagged you in.
Right, as an example. I'm one of your clients. I go there and I do this run, but then I take pictures and I have a decent influence online, more than I do in real life.
Right.
But let's just say that I have that, and then I draw in.
Is that a jab?
Another, it was jab myself.
I thought you were.
No, I don't have enough pull for that to really matter. And that was why that day I laughed, because I was funny. Like, I totally get you.
Sure.
Because Pat basically was like seeing that I geotagged on Instagram, these places that I go. For my argument side, this is just my side. I don't think I ever expressed this. The places I go are very hard to get to, and they're usually considered like the harder hikes. So even if somebody wanted to go to them, it's not what I would consider to be where this problem is stemming from, which is the easier to get to, drive up and goof off kind of spots.
Absolutely, right.
But what is your problem to not be able to what is your issue with people that would go to these places, geotag this poppy field, and then say, hey, everybody come visit, and then they influence 1,000 other people to come?
Right.
What's that to you?
So I'll preface with stating I'm very much interested in getting to the point to getting a little bit more professional insight into this. Obviously, this is not I'm not a professional in the public outdoor space kind of sector, but just with all that being said, I've started to get much more interested and engaged with getting outdoors, and my main concern around, say, the no geotagging movement is it's a multitude of things. the internet has made stuff in general so incredibly and easily accessible, it's almost laughable.
Right.
It takes away the fun from being able to work for something,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
you can go anywhere virtually.
well, as well,
of that
yes,
nature.
as well as being able to like find a place. Okay,
Okay.
so let's go to the out. I like to get really imaginative with this. So,
Okay.
yes, there are a handful of places that I have found within New Mexico and all that kind of stuff because it's been geotagged. And yes, I'm willing to put in the work and the effort to get there. But even just from an initial standpoint, the fun of the hunt, so to speak, of finding a place and like talking to people and the word of mouth behind that, the storytelling, storytelling aspect is lost.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like you post a photo, it's geotagged, people can tap right on it, and I don't even have to talk to you, Morgan.
Right.
I don't even have to go through you, like the gatekeeper of your own experience, and learning, hey, like what part of the state was this in? Did you go down this road? Like the storytelling is completely lost.
Sure.
And it makes it, and on top of that, it makes things super accessible through that gateway being completely cleared for anybody and everybody to find a place. And it's just, I'm trying to keep an optimistic lens around this because I'm fascinated to see
Sure.
with technology making things so much easier to do and to find and to see things, how that's going to affect the integrity and the sustainability of our public lands.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you work with humans so constantly that I feel like you are kind of an expert in this because you deal with people's behaviors. So you know better than a lot of people that when somebody sees something, let's say the 40 some odd clients you have, I mean, if I see an out for a good hike and I find out that it's actually easy as hell and I can even take my kids,
Sure.
I bet you I'm going to go.
Sure,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And times 5 people that are like-minded like me that are trying to get in shape and
it's not so much like I have no problem with people getting outdoors and sharing stuff. I'm most concerned about one's intention and respect of a space.
sure.
You know what I mean? So like I'll go out and travel and I'm picking up trash. I'm picking up shirts.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And
You
on
hippie.
but it's real shit, man.
Yeah.
Like
No, that's huge, man.
Like I don't know. Like I've definitely dabbled in and I'd be willing to buy you the book.
Okay.
Just so you could read and get a little bit of insight. He graduated from the University of New Mexico. His name's Edward Abbey, and
Okay.
he's since passed away. But from what little research I've done, he's a huge advocate for conserving outdoor spaces and preserving them. And it's
Sure.
through and he takes it to an incredible extreme to where it's like there should be no paved roads to most places. Like
Keeping it as naturalist as possible.
if you're wanting to get there, you need to ride a bike, you need to hike, or you need to take a horse.
Yeah.
As a means of just preserving the land. And maybe this is me going to a place of becoming an old man, like get off my lawn type thing. But I just also try to stay observant in our culture and its consuming habits to where everything's window shopping.
Right.
Like you look up within even the Grand Canyon. So many people die at the Grand Canyon because they're trying to take a photo.
Selfies. Yeah.
A selfie.
I've heard about that. Yeah, that's insane.
They're going past the barricade to take a photo of the and part of what aggravates me behind this is people are using the earth as a backdrop to elevate their own egotistical standing.
Sure.
That's what
like
I
that
don't
perfect
like.
life that they have on
Right,
Facebook.
like, oh, cool! I
comparatively to
took a photo at Horseshoe Bend, or I took a photo at Antelope Canyon, and it's like who are you to try to elevate yourself above the earth
Right.
that you came from,
Right.
that you were born from?
Okay. So can I be the devil's advocate?
Yeah,
in this?
absolutely.
Let's talk about kind of the lifestyle that I live, that you live,
Sure.
that we kind of advocate for. Would you not want a guy like me though to be motivated enough to make like a 4-part series of a trip that I'm going to visit
sure.
Horseshoe Bend?
Right,
And I'm going to
right.
go see this place. But speaking of Horseshoe Bend specifically, I can understand that when they started geotagging it, they actually had to grow the area that people would drive up to,
right,
because of how many people started to show up after that happened, and it was
wasn't
damaging
a thing.
the little.
It wasn't
a
thing
area
at that point,
right,
or before that.
So as the devil's advocate, I would say, wouldn't it be weird for you to tell me not to have more people going to XYZ
like
place?
it's a really interesting point, and this is what I get at to where like it's prompted me because I don't want to be the guy that's just running my mouth to be running my mouth.
Okay.
This is obviously a genuine concern within the Forest Service, the Public Recreation Park Service, National Park
people
Service.
are overusing the spots that are being
so
highlighted.
like what I'm interested in getting is like professional insight into this. As to like, okay, so like not only am I concerned as a consumer and a participant in this, but I want to get the professionals' insight as to, okay, this is like we're getting like White Sands, all these places that are like so heavily geotagged. How do you balance that? Like, how do you balance having all these people come to your park and knowing that maybe a lot of them aren't going to respect it? And like, what kind of work so that's what I'm getting at is like, just, I think it's important to just tread lightly and be a conscious consumer and know that like, when you go to these places, like I don't have a problem with anybody going to them.
Yeah.
It's like, are you going to respect them? But that's what concerns me relative to our culture, to where it's like, are we really being intentional? Are we really being present with our consumption? I'll get super hippie on you. Are we being conscious enough to like acknowledge like, okay, I've lived 30 years and I want to live 30 more, and if I'm lucky, 30 more beyond that. And am I doing the best I can with the world that I've lived in to maintain its beauty so someone else can have as positive and as an incredible of an experience? Or
like my kids and such.
Or is it going to get is it going to deteriorate and be treated so poorly to where it's no longer going to exist?
Right.
You know what I mean? That's where I come from.
Sure. Do you preach this with your clients? Like, hey, you're going on this hike, make sure that you understand. Because like,
and that's a good question. That's where I don't know the right way to navigate that.
Sure.
Obviously, like I'm not going to become their dad and be like, hey, you need to do A, B, C, or D, because surprisingly, a lot of the people don't want to exert the effort, because it's, regardless of whether or not it's easy to just drive up there, some places take 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to drive through, drive to. Are they willing to just schedule out? Because that was a thing for me in the past around lifting weights and stuff like that. It was I willing to carve time out of my weekends, my free time, to know that, okay, we're going to go here this weekend.
Yeah.
And that means I'm not going to be able to do things I normally be able to do whenever I'm
go hang
home.
out with my homies.
Right.
That are
So
giving
like
me grief.
everybody's not going to do it, but I just, the accessibility and the demystifying, I guess you could say, of the story, like the stripping away of the storytelling it's a bummer good. Because like I'll talk with friends about places that I want to go to or they've gone to. And it's like what I was talking to you about that hike that I found in western New Mexico. I didn't find out about that through Instagram or Facebook. I found out about that through a friend.
Through a buddy.
And it was so much, honestly, man, it meant so much more for me to go on that hike and get to that vantage point, because I was, someone told me a story. You know what I mean?
No, I do.
And I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. So I had these thoughts and visuals in my head as to how it was going to be and what it was going to look like and what was going to, it was so much more imaginative than me just getting on Instagram and finding a picture.
Right. The perfectly posed angles of every part of it. Because it takes work to get to these spots.
Yeah. So like I would be interested to talk to, it's a huge thing here in New Mexico. And I think I like it because I don't think people know what they're getting into when they come to New Mexico.
Yeah.
People get really, really bent out of shape because it doesn't have a big nightlife.
Sure.
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
If you're coming, in my opinion, I'm speaking through my experience, my bias, etc. If you're coming to New Mexico to experience heavy amounts of culture, lots of history, and like in my experience, like a high level of spiritual intention behind getting outside and being
like the
active.
romanticism of New Mexico, the
it's
whole land of enchantment.
Yeah, and learning and getting a feel for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if you're willing to get outside and move around and all that kind of stuff, we've got more than you could ever ask for, on top of which I don't know if you've gotten outdoors in Colorado or other states.
Not as much.
It's not as much fun.
Really?
There's so many people.
Okay, I can see that.
So that's where I'm coming from as well, to where like we're very fortunate in New Mexico to be able to get outside and you could go all day, all 4 days of your trip or whatever, and not meet one person.
Right.
So you know what I mean? It turning from being a place of solitude and peace, and knowing that the people that you're going to interact with and run into aren't going to be on their phones, taking photos, doing all that. Because then, in my opinion, if your phone's out the entire time, it becomes inorganic.
Right.
It doesn't become, it's no longer natural.
You're not here, you're still on Instagram.
Right. So like there are other states where they don't have the luxury we have. You go out mountain biking or riding or hiking or whatever it is, and you're overwhelmed by people,
like in California,
and it
that.
becomes less fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So there's that piece as well. But I like the New Mexico True initiative that they have going on for our state to really, really push people getting outdoors. I would just be really interested to learn, okay, you're promoting people being here, but like at what cost?
Yeah.
And do we have a contingency plan if things aren't being taken care of?
Well, and to speak to that, I don't think there's as much people that know about like the whole pack out what you pack in concept came from the 60s, and it was a bunch of hikers that put this thing together.
Sure.
This wasn't something that was a government initiative.
Right.
It probably turned into that now. But initially when these guys had done this, it was a bunch of friends that were like, well, when you take shit out, you need to bring it back, you know?
Right.
And something basic like that, it needs to kind of be an evergreen kind of message.
Right.
Because I know some cats that will want to go hiking with me, and then, you know, we'll take them as the first time because we do some heavier stuff. Like, and I was alluding to ultimately this last weekend that I went, you know, I went up to the Santa Fe National Forest, the Pecos area here in New Mexico. Beautiful place.
Right.
4 or 5 people out there before us. So like you said, not very many people on this very beautiful hike that I would think if it was somewhere in a more populous, you know, more populated kind of state, maybe an area like LA, let's say, this would be an area that people are going to want to be Instagramming the hell out of, because both of these lakes that I visited were very gorgeous, perfect for Instagram, right? So,
yeah, but see, that's part of the problem. It's like, perfect for Instagram,
right? Okay,
who fucking cares,
right? No, and I get you,
but it alludes to this whole dynamic of you're like you saying it, Instagram like it was Instagram ready, it's Instagram perfect. For me, that alludes to a deeper meaning and a deeper sense and understanding of how people are living their lives. They're like, oh, this thing is going to make me look better than everybody else
on Facebook.
Why
Instagram.
are you having to take the photo and like, I'm fine with you taking the photo, but why are you taking the photo and feeling a need to post it in the first place? But it's me again. This is my feelings around social media to an extent. It's like, I don't care that much.
But could you
why
not
do you have
go
to
with the fact that might motivate another person to go?
That absolutely.
Okay.
And this is the fine line that we're trying to figure out how to navigate.
Yeah.
But like, it's a really interesting dynamic because and this is part of my own, I don't want to say crux, like issue, or there's a better word, but my struggle with even my own involvement in social media, because I feel I stay in it because I don't think there are enough people speaking positively and doing it loud enough.
Here. I can totally see
you know what
that.
I mean?
But
there are times where it's like, and I feel it more with Instagram personally, because I feel it's all based on catching people visually.
Images, yeah.
As opposed to, I'm old school. I'm an old soul. Like, I don't mind reading.
Yeah.
So like, that's why I enjoy Facebook a little bit more, where it's like, you got to read a message,
right?
And you've got to go a little bit deeper contextually, as opposed to Instagram is a lot of eye candy. And
Quick.
But social media in general, like, people are spending exorbitant amount, I think it's exorbitant or exorbitant. I apologize for the confusion.
The enunciation.
Yeah. Well, I think it's two separate words that mean two different things. But just a large amount of time living their lives to try and impress other people and make it seem like my life is better, instead of using that platform to let them know, I'm human, I struggle, let's work at this together.
Yeah.
So it creates,
that's huge, man.
It creates this whole really, really, really sickened use of free time, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
So what do you think is the greatest what do you think is the next thing for you see things from a very unique perspective, and I kind of alluded to this when we were on break here just a second ago, but like CRISPR and biohacking and things of that nature and things that are coming next.
Right.
What do you foresee for humans? What do you think is the next evolution of things? I mean, people are always looking for easy, and being in your particular thing, like, you got the, what is it? What is it? What's the cartoon with the little box? The little box guy, not Eevee. It's what the heck's his name? The little guy that can package everything.
I don't know.
Why can't I think of his name?
What show is it?
It's a Pixar cartoon. Humans are all fat. They're on a spaceship flying somewhere.
Oh, Wall-E.
Wall-E. Why can't I think of it?
Right.
So so like humans, let's say we continued on this journey where eventually they're not even visiting these places that are being tagged on Instagram, or it's a very few amount of the overall populace doing this. Do you think that's the direction that humans would go? Unguided is in these chairs, and they're fat, their joints are growing apart because evolution is saying you don't move anyways because of this digital age.
I don't know. It's super interesting, and the answer is I don't know. Like, I want to continue to be optimistic and positive about it. But yeah, there are things where maybe it's just us being so wired in fear that it raises some eyebrows for me. And again, maybe this is just part of getting older.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
To where like, the way we did it in the past was always so much better, and you're nostalgic for that.
Right.
And so I don't know. Like, I don't know what stage of any of that I'm in, but it's like, relative to a health and like an eating and an exercise point of view, I think of examples being like Uber Eats and Grubhub and Postmates. And it's like a lot of things continue, from my perspective, to continue to go down a road of the consumer just doesn't want to move. Okay.
Easier is better.
Yeah. Like to the point to where like, wait, we've invented cars. Okay, cars help us get to point A to point B faster. Now we're taking it a step further where it's like, no, I don't want to make the time, or I'm too busy, or I just don't want to get in my car. And I understand people are busy, but like, it's just really interesting where we're heading as a culture, where it's still all the productivity and the work piece is being put on steroids, to where it's like, no, I'm so busy in my work related culture and schedule that I can't even afford to take time to go grab my meal and take a break from my work and go eat that meal mindfully, be away from my phone. Like, the grocery delivery thing is super interesting.
Yeah.
Where I get it. Like, there are instances where I would like to use it, but I ultimately don't end up doing it because I don't want somebody else picking out my food for me.
Right. Or like the meal prep service. Have you seen that?
Yeah. But see, it's really interesting. Like, I've recommended meal prep services for clients that there's that is what it is. That's their life. They're super busy, but the least I can do is try to navigate them in a healthier option. But it's like
specific lane that they're driving in.
Right. But it's really fascinating, and I just think of, man, things are continuing to get pushed to the extent, physically speaking, where the consumer doesn't have to do much of anything. If we wanted to eat dinner, I could order it all right now and it come to our house, come to the house.
Right.
Or
even the beer comes now, I think.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like all of it. So like the grocery shopping piece, I don't find it as appealing because relative to my eating habits, I'm looking at produce. I'm looking at the quality of the meat. Like, I want to squeeze that. I'm interacting. Avocado. Yes. Yeah. So it goes down to like intentional living and intentional like behavior, and it goes back to like the being outdoors thing and all that kind of stuff. It's like,
that's kind of an old school framework you're speaking of, though.
Oh,
like
sure.
You said, that's kind of something that people are going to look at and say, well, this is, my brother's 17. Okay. Mm-hmm. And let's say that I try to instill a lot of these things in him. He's going to look at me like Postmates is easy enough to get my Taco Bell at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Whereas we're thinking like you should have gone to Sprouts at, 11 o'clock in the afternoon in the AM, where you could have taken the time to pick out your food and cooked it. And, and I wonder if that's an age thing.
It's absolutely got to be. So I have to preface, I'm speaking through bias, and I also don't know what the right answer is.
What do you see for the future, though? I mean, we talked about maybe I'm speaking a little crazy about the cartoon, but let's say, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that there's a purpose to why things
What
are
would be
happening
super cool? Yeah, since we're going off on tangents, like what would be super cool, and I'm a person that likes moving, so like I want to continue to exercise, so I'd rather just view it through that vein.
Sure.
I would recommend, if you haven't watched it, there's a documentary called The Transcendent Man.
Okay.
I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's a huge proponent of the theory of singularity, which poses that the next step in human evolution is we merge with technology, and just being able to be physically and mentally capable beyond our wildest dreams. And he was talking about being able to merge with technology. I'm talking mainly through the physical piece, but like being able to merge with technology to a point to where you could run a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles at the same pace that you would run a 100-meter dash.
Sure, because you just program it in.
Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? So stuff like that would be super fascinating to where it's like, how can we continue to, and I think at the root of things, that's where I think a lot of our intentions are, is like, how can we continue to do things for good?
Sure. Or live longer. I mean, that's really what most humans look at, is how can I extend
So like, I don't want to get caught up in just the gluttonous, lazy piece of people just being like the whole Wall-E analogy where like people are in motorized, but I think it's important to bring that up to where it's like, okay, we need to check our consumption. How in tune and interactive are you? Like, and I don't know, man, like the intention and the intimate experience of actually consuming food and having made the food.
Yeah.
There's some depth
Makes
to
all
that.
the difference.
It does. And I hope relative to that and exercise that doesn't get lost, because I feel like you're losing out on yourself. You're losing out on intimate experiences, like say with your family, like a recipe that, your grandmother made that your mom makes that now, like, you know what I mean? And
well,
like,
we can all echo being youngsters and looking at your family and being like, well, that's not me, and you almost disown that. Could be, not everybody, but by the time that you get, again, to our age, you start to look back and say, it's really precious that my grandmother tried to show me XYZ recipe. Let's say that I'm native or something, or I'm some sort of ethnicity that is trying to carry on, that culture. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's huge that you say that, because I think a lot of people can get, young people can look at their parents and things like that, or even that culture, and say that's the old way of doing it, when really I think there can be a blend of things. Right.
So like a really interesting example is like within certain Native American cultures, their spoken word, their language isn't ever written down. So like in order for people to learn, say, I don't want to misspeak, but say a certain particular Native American language that is only spoken word.
Right.
You don't write it down. It's not recorded. You have to speak it to a human being
to continue that tradition.
And I think that's really powerful.
Sure.
Because it means stop being you have to stop what you're doing.
Right.
You have to set out some time and you have to speak to a human being.
Right.
And you have to learn that language through that human being and learn the stories behind it. And I'm not saying it's the only right way. And you talking about like a blend of things would be really fascinating, to where it's like an emphasis on spoken word as well as being, because there are many Native American languages that will be lost forever, because where life is going and where technology is going, people aren't, like, you see what I'm getting at? Like, there's more, I feel, of a detachment from interpersonal communication, like talking to a human being. And that's where I get back with the social media thing, to where it's people spending so much time posturing, trying to make themselves look better than everybody else
on social media.
Instead of using that platform to connect.
That's huge.
And be like, oh my God, I can speak with a person all the way across the world.
Right.
I have online clients that I've yet to ever meet in person.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can have a phone call with them in a different time zone, or a video call, or send them something in the mail and make them feel valued.
Right.
Again, I'm speaking from heavy bias, but in my humble opinion, that's what social media needs to be used for.
The human element.
Yeah. You don't have to be selling a service, but it's like, in my opinion, in my view, your idle use of free time with social media is a pretty strong representation of the thoughts that you have going on during your day to day.
What would be your recommendation normal guy like me, I work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. How many hours should I be spending on social media?
You can spend as much as you want. It's just a matter of what do you want to get out of it.
Right. So let's just say that I want it to be as healthy as possible. There's a lot of studies that talk about hour is a lot in a day, but that should be his max. But most of us are blowing over that. Like you can actually look up screen time usage.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so if you had a client and this was a concern of theirs, not necessarily this is your go-to for every client, but if that was a concern of theirs, what would you recommend for screen time maybe in a day? Weekday. Weekends are different, I
don't know,
think.
Man. Like, see, it's tough because this is touching on territory where it's like, you know, I don't like this is not. I haven't even done this ever with a client, so I feel like and I really feel like this is where my coaching is going. It's going more towards life coaching than it's just personal training. Because I like exercise and all that kind of stuff, but I'd like to go bigger.
Yeah.
So I guess this is kind of where we're touching on it a little bit, but like. Yeah, maybe a couple hours at most. Like I feel like we've been inundated with an electronic screen that for me feels so inorganic, but yet I'm using it to connect. It's more how you're using it. You know what I mean? So it's like, but how long are we burying our face in our phones whenever we're missing out on looking at the trees blow in the wind?
Right. Or going to check out Elmo Pies.
Yeah. Or just sitting outside on your front porch on a Friday evening. Like, I don't know. That's nothing short of like and that's where I go back to the outdoor piece. And even if I have service, I turn my phone on airplane mode because I do not need to be on my phone.
Right.
I do not need to be posting on Snapchat. Oh, look at me. Like this is the greatest thing on the planet. Like you're at home working and you're miserable. And I'm not into it.
It's very much posturing. Like you said, you're showing off to your friends. Like I'm out here and you're not. You know?
Yeah. Like creating FOMO.
See, and I there are so many aspects coming from a technology perspective. There's so many aspects of this tech that I like that are, you know, like I was on the side of the mountain this last weekend. I was like 4 days, what I would have thought was out of pocket. I'd hit certain spots on the mountain where I'm getting perfect 4G. Mm-hmm. So I just video call my wife. Look where I'm at. How are you? How you? And I hadn't seen her for 2 days. You know, and I got her pulled up. You know, and in that to me, that's worth the effort. You know, and then in the same breath, I run a podcast and I do things like that. So of course I'm taking video. Of course I'm taking pictures. I wouldn't live vicariously through that though, where I can understand what you're saying. Like people are trying to basically live through those images and those moments rather than be in that moment, you know, and that can be said through a lot of things, you know, parents with kids that could do better, yada, yada.
Sure.
But I think in the mountains and things like that, that's where that really hits home because you look at how isolated you are when that tech doesn't work and how much we rely on that and how much it's in your hand. You know, and when I go to share a moment when I'm at home, I don't think about it. But when I'm in the mountains, I'm like, you know, this is truly beautiful and I'm truly appreciative for it. You know, and I wish I had more moments like that. But I could see how that can be skewed as posturing from the person that's seeing it and or followers, let's say.
Sure.
You know, that's huge, man.
Yeah. And not like relative to the alone quiet time. It's like, I think people are afraid to be quiet.
Right.
And I think they're afraid to be by themselves.
I like how you put that.
And I again, this is through very limited group of people that I've spoken to, but like I've done sensory deprivation.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You done float tanks?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've done it for years.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was laughing with my girlfriend, and again, this was me becoming an old man. But I was telling her, I was like, man, I was into sensory deprivation and all that kind of stuff. I knew about Wim Hof and the Iceman stuff like way before it became trendy and cool.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's a super hipster thing for me to say anyways.
Right.
But yeah, so like I've been doing sensory deprivation for
just for you guys listening, it's like a chamber that you go and lay inside of that's got like 1,000 pounds of salt in the water, and you lay in this water and you basically float in this tiny chamber that
it's all at body temperature.
And then you essentially have your all of your senses shut off, and
it's completely dark.
And without even meaning to, you're meditating, right? More or less, because
depending on how you want to go about it, it can either be a meditation chamber, or it can be a chaos chamber. It can be whatever you want it to be.
That's interesting.
So you haven't done it before?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
So the interesting piece when sharing that with people is more often than not, a lot of them it was so fascinating because I was talking about this exact subject with the gentleman who was running the check-in desk when I went, and he said something to the tune of like, people are so powerful they take their own power away, and talking about how I'll bring this amplified form of meditation that I like to engage in. And immediately people would be like, oh, well, I could never do that. I couldn't do that without music. I couldn't do that without this.
Distraction.
So, yeah. And people get really fucking freaked out by it. They're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And it's like, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I always tell people with the sensory deprivation chamber, you need to give it at least three shots.
Wow.
Before
and that's like 60 minutes per shot.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
You need to give it 3 shots before you determine whether or not it's something for you. Because regardless, the first time, of course, it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel different.
It's foreign.
It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be waiting and begging internally for them to ring the bell for you to be done. But you need to give it 3 shots before you determine whether or not it's for you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you just, and again, this also translates over into being outdoors. I talked to Jason Rigby about this, where that's what I like about being in the outdoors and being away because a lot of technology is telling you everything can happen so quickly.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to ever be patient. Just get it right now.
Right.
And what I like about the tank and what I like about being outdoors is you're either looking inward in the tank and you're realizing, what does it matter when the bell goes off?
Right.
Why?
Right.
What does it matter that I haven't gotten all these things done?
You have essentially shifted your perspective.
Yeah.
And so it only took 60 minutes in that case.
Right. And same with being outdoors.
Yeah.
You're looking at, we're in Albuquerque, the Sandias are immediately in our backyard to the east. How long do you think that took?
What do you mean?
For the mountain to become the mountain.
To be what it is.
You know what I mean? That used to be the floor of an ocean. You go up there on the tram and they tell you you'll find seashells there.
Yeah.
If you look closely enough.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's like, that took patience.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Ralph Waldo Emerson that said, adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. And that's what it is. It's like whatever you're going through, your life, all that kind of stuff, you just need to learn to relax and trust the journey and trust the process. And this can ultimately loop all the way back into my coaching dynamic. And people come to me and they want something immediately. And I'm kind of coming at them, be like, why are you in a hurry? Yeah. And it's not as a means of you're never going to get there. But like, even if you were to get it immediately, you're going to lose so much of that internal dialogue and that internal journey that you would have gotten from a year, 2 years of work.
Struggling, essentially.
Yeah, but no, you got it immediately.
Right. No, and that plays
the
back
worth
into
is kind of
I love how you put that, because to me that really puts a spotlight on how you feel about the Instagram stuff, because they didn't earn it to look at that picture, and when I go on these hikes, I know, because that's what I do. It's not what I do. It's one of the things that I do. Mm-hmm. And it's essentially like when I get to one of these peaks or something, I've been doing this since like 2009.
Sure.
Like trying to explore more and more spots in Albuquerque,
right.
But across the board, if I was in fucking Sweden or, wherever the hell I'm at, I'm going to try to find some gangster place. And when I get there, I'm going to take a gangster picture, which I had said, is Instagram pretty, but people are not going to be able to appreciate how hard it was to go, that far out. The one we did this last weekend was 6 miles out, 4,000 feet of gain to the first lake. Mm-hmm. The second lake was another 1,500 feet of gain and another 4 miles out. And, gain means you're going upwards.
Right.
So you're climbing uphill with a pack,
going closer to the sun.
Yeah. And like I was showing you, I have a cut across my side here from my pack digging in, my brand new pack I just got, but when I'm taking those videos, I'm showing you all love and fluff for 5 minutes, this beautiful YouTube video.
Right.
So people don't truly appreciate it. That can play into a lot of things.
Right.
So when you come to a client, do you what's the you're talking to them and they come up with something, do you give somebody a goal that's a little bit higher than what they initially came to you with? Is that always like a goal for you?
To like up their goal?
Yeah. I mean, like you said that you meet them where they're at, and that sounds like a lot of your training, but do you ultimately challenge them to something that's a step above what they're doing in order to get them to come out of their comfort level and to really appreciate what they're doing?
More often, I would say that kind of happens organically. The client ends up realizing that themselves. In my opinion, like, sure, I'm there to push them, in workouts and all that kind of stuff. But in my experience, it really feels like that ends up happening on their own accord.
What's like the craziest story you've had? If you can say it to where it's anonymous, but has there been like a 100-pound weight loss story, something like that you've had?
I'd say I haven't had anything that's been that dramatic.
Okay.
I've had, areas of within and yeah, I haven't had like more, anybody that I've worked with quite yet that's, been morbidly obese or anything like that. And they've lost just such a substantial amount of weight. The vast majority, is usually within the 40s, 50s, 60 pounds, which when you think
That's
about
still
it,
a lot,
it's a considerable amount of weight. So yeah, it's nothing been like, I don't know, so mind blowing that, oh my God, they've lost so much weight, but you can tell there's a dramatic difference within people. But yeah, weight loss wise, it's been within that range.
Nobody's climbed like Mount Everest or anything yet.
Not necessarily, but like for instance, I work with a client that I aspire to be him when I'm older, because he goes out, he backpacks, he hikes, he trail runs. He does all this stuff, and he does it for a long period, like 10 days
Oh, wow.
plus type stuff. And it's cool to know that I have a hand in
Helping
prepping
that.
him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And him being a part of that. And that's an area that resonates with me that I discussed earlier. It's just being in good enough condition to where I can really earn interacting with the earth on that level, to where
That's
it's
huge,
like,
man.
yeah, I don't want to go to a place where I can just drive up and walk to it. Like that it just doesn't nourish me.
Yeah.
Like I want
Not the
to
same
be,
way. Gotta earn it.
But yeah, but in my opinion, it's a microcosm of life. So it's like, do I want to be drive up ready to being rich and successful? Do I want to be drive up ready to having the perfect relationship with my significant other and having kids? Do you really want that? Like all those perfect things given to you right off the bat?
Right.
Like,
That's
no,
huge, man.
life's tough, dude.
Yeah.
And it gets tougher as you get older, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know what's going to hit you, and you don't know how to handle it. Like, it's so fascinating looking back on it, where we're like, as kids, we look to our parents, and I remember thinking my parents knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
They had no fucking clue. And that's okay. But you know what I mean? That's a framework right there. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like my parents did everything in their power to make sure that I was taken care of, and I made it out okay.
Yeah.
And so did they.
Right.
And they did this brings me back to my point, a point that I talked to Jason in the past, where I don't think we really take the time to tune into and remain grateful for the moment that you and I are having right now.
Yeah.
Being able to sit here in my home, have this podcast, is a result of evolution. It's a result of generation after generation after generation for so very long, millions of years, billions of years in the making, to be able to adapt to change and to be able to adapt to stuff that they're scared of.
You just went deep as shit on me. I'm so
to
proud
be
of
able
you. Man.
to be able to adapt to things that they don't know how to truly, like, they don't know the right answer, but they do the best they can.
Right.
And
I can tell you I have no idea what I'm doing with this right now.
Well, but
I know
but you're doing something. You know what I mean? And you're trying. And it's relative to one's health, relative to one's own existence, whether they're
one's humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going through. I want to like nail this down into people and letting them know, like, you're fucking equipped, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that. And that's part of what I feel my need in continuing to be a part of social media, is letting people know, like, don't you ever fucking let anybody tell you you can't do anything.
It's like I'm
like,
right here.
yeah,
This is why I brought you on.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like some of
Absolutely.
these people I've never met, I may not ever get to meet, but letting them know, like, do you realize that you have this? It's embedded in your DNA.
You are this capable.
Like you, like
Yeah.
it's in you. Like
Yeah.
you are capable.
Right.
Go and do it.
Yeah.
Like go and conquer.
And
it.
I get this a lot. Like I'm not, I'm perceived a lot of the ways that you may be at the 10,000 foot view. Oh, he's an in shape guy. He exercises, blah, blah, blah. And then they try to like ask me for advice and stuff. And mine is always so slanted because it's not something I do. I don't have the same, my motivations are so personal that when I tell somebody about why I wanted to go hike the mountain for 6 days, it's like, well, that's fun, but it
Right.
wasn't that way when I was
Right.
in their shoes, 2011-ish, when I was smoking a pack a day.
Right.
And to have somebody push on me like that was non-existent. And it took almost this many years to be able to do that, because I don't know how many times I quit doing shit because
Right.
it was hard.
Yeah.
But I think the way that you see things is huge, man. And I guess the last question that I have for you, with the wear training going the way that it is, Are you planning on doing something bigger with that? You said that you were alluding to it. I mean, and I know that you're going to continue to take on clients and work with them that way, but do you see that there's more, like, do you plan on ever opening a gym, anything like that?
I don't know. I had an interest in it whenever I first came out of college. And although it's still something that I find appealing, I don't have an active interest in it right now.
Yeah. Well, you don't prescribe to like just something straight up like CrossFitting or bodybuilding.
No,
like you're not
no.
that kind of
So
cat.
like I don't know how that would look.
Right.
But I'm not opposed to it ultimately. But in regards to like where things are looking, like what things are looking like into the future and all that kind of stuff, I'll answer it with what we've been talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yes, there are times where I go through a considerable amount of self-doubt and not knowing if what I'm doing is the right thing. And I'm saying this as a means of connecting with every human being on this planet. Like, I will not buy for 1 second any single person that I talk to that tells me that they've never had any doubt.
Right.
And they've never gone through any worries of like, am I doing the right thing?
Right.
You know, that true internal struggle.
100%,
so it's like, just acknowledging it's okay to not know. Like I know the feeling I get when I focus on what I'm passionate on or about and how good it makes me feel. And I will let that, honestly, dude, like I've been doing the online training thing for, I'd say realistically, and doing it well and efficient for 3 years.
Yeah.
And efficiently for about 2 years prior to that. So 5 years, total. And through me just trusting the process and just enjoying the work, like enjoying the journey, you and I would have never met.
Right.
That's how you and I met.
Yeah.
Through a mutual friend.
I would say the style that you approach things is what drew me to you because you weren't selling me anything and you still have yet to, even though the opportunity is there. And I feel like you may do that with other people, and I don't know, I haven't tried to, that's not what I do here. Like I go off of base feeling and, you know, and I trust you and I see how people react to you and people that have worked with you. So it's not, it's all legitimate. It's all genuine. But I think the biggest thing that drives me is to see somebody that has the ability to put together those gray areas, that are lacking, because there's a lot of people that they're taking it from a book, man, and you're taking it from a book, but you're also like, man, there's so much other stuff that I can get into, and to be your own boss and doing that, I'm proud of you, man.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome, dude.
It's not always the easiest, but it's definitely, if it wasn't fulfilling, I wouldn't be doing it.
Well, you make changes in people's lives, dude. So hats off to you. That's why I brought you on, man.
I appreciate you.
So one more time before we get off the podcast, man, because I know we gotta wrap in the Deutsch. We've been almost 2 hours, man.
Yeah.
I think the next time we do this, before we cite where we can get a hold of you, I think in the future we should try to go for more of a coach's corner.
Okay.
So I challenge any of you guys listening that if you guys want to let me know,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, like anything.
Ask a lot of questions.
Right. Like let me know and let Pat know, of course, for me to you could send him straight to him or whatever. We can answer him on the podcast. Essentially, if you're going through something or you have some some 101s, I want to be the couch to 5K person. Maybe that's a bad example. Maybe I just want to, get an idea of how to not be so sore when I go on this run. Maybe I'm nervous to get into a program because I get so sore. All these little things that people have starting out. And then, maybe we got somebody that has got a bad knee and is a bit of an athlete. They run quite a bit or something like that. Ask us whatever. And even if we can't dig it out, we can at least throw some advice on it. So if you guys got anything, throw it our way. And where can they throw those questions at?
Yeah. So either on Instagram, that's my Instagram handle is aware_life_ABQ. If they want to reach me at email, either patrick@aware.training or my Gmail account, which is pryanpersonaltraining@gmail.com. Otherwise, I think that's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
And if not, you guys, of course, you can find us at approachofbirds.com. You know where we're at. And then approachofbirds@gmail.com. Or I think it's contact@approachofbirds.com. Any of those, hit me up on Facebook. We're all over the place.
Yeah. Otherwise, I forgot my website, which is the http://aware.training.
Yeah. So. And if you don't go to exactly what he said, you're going to get some weird corporate site.
Yeah.
If you just try to Google it.
Yeah,
it's like somebody else had it.
Yeah, the website thing will get figured out. My SEO isn't up there.
Right.
It's not the end of the
world. It's okay. Mine either. My title's too long.
Sure.
People are like a perch of what? Why?
Yeah.
Why did you call it that?
Right.
Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on again.
Cool. Thank
and we're
you.
going to do this again with like a coach's corner kind of a
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah,
Thanks for
that'd
having
be
me in
good.
your
That'd be
house.
good. Much love, man.
All right, Pat.